Karen is a pejorative slang term for an obnoxious, angry, entitled, and often racist middle-aged white woman who uses her privilege to get her way or police other people's behaviors. However, Karens come in all shapes and sizes and can be any ethnicity, nationality, race, sex, gender, sexual orientation, or political affiliation.
Come to the dark side.
So, the Today Show finally dropped the full interview with Amber Heard, and I'm going to play it for you and give you my take on it. Mind you, I'm not a legal expert. This is just my opinion on what I saw during the trial and how I perceived what was going on. Before we start, I want to preface this with the fact that I've never been a victim of domestic abuse, but my husband and his mother have. My husband's father and my husband's grandfather were both abusive alcoholics. If my husband's father had a bad day, he would come home and take it out on the family. If you didn't get a beer fast enough, he would take it out on the family. I can recall many other stories that my husband told me that were far worse, but as I do not have his permission, I will not recount them here. My husband's father died in 1984, so I never met him. And frankly, I am glad. Because had he still been around, he would not even be around my children, knowing what I know about him. Oh, and please don't worry, my husband has never laid one finger on me. He vowed to never hit a woman, and he never has. The reason that I brought up my father-in-law was because his father was also an abusive alcoholic, so it goes to a pattern in the family of being abusers, and it's a lifelong thing in my opinion. It's not something that you just flip a switch on because you arbitrarily meet somebody one day and they rub you the wrong way. But I am not a psychologist, nor am I in mental health. This is just my opinion. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get on with this interview, and hopefully we can kind of push Amber Heard out of our brains after this. But I make no promises.
It's been about more than a week since the verdict. As you sit here with me now, has it sunk in?
Here is where her script comes into play.
How could it? It's surreal and difficult, in part, yes. This has been a long time coming.
Do you stand by your testimony and your accusations against Johnny Depp about abuse?
Of course, to my dying day, will stand by every word of my testimony.
Of course she will. She has to. She still seems, by all accounts, to be the ambassador of domestic abuse for the ACLU. She swore under oath that she was the victim of Johnny Depp's abuse for more than 6 years. If she were to say that she were lying now, it would go even worse for her. Besides facing possible prison time for perjury, she may lose valued allies, Eve Barlow, who fight for her on Twitter to keep what she allegedly went through in the court of public opinion. And yes, there are people that believe wholeheartedly that Johnny Depp is an abuser and Amber did nothing wrong.
I think vast majority of this trial was played out on social media. I think that this trial is an example of that gone haywire, gone amok, and the jury is not immune to that.
You think the jury saw it?
How could they not? I think even the most well-intentioned juror, it would have been impossible to avoid this.
I recall somebody else using almost exactly those same words. Who could it be?
You think jurors were aware of it? They weren't supposed to be. They're admonished every single day. Don't look at it. Do you think they did see it?
How can you not? They went home every night. They have families. The families are on social media. We had a 10-day break in the middle because of the judicial conference. There's no way they couldn't have been influenced by it.
So it seems the narrative during the trial is still the same. It's all about social media and the court of public opinion. And poor Amber Heard can't catch a break. It's all so lopsided, blah, 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 blah. When it was Johnny's time on social media and it was lopsided against him, she didn't bat a fucking eye. She didn't care. Now, this is just my opinion, But it seems as though Amber Heard used Johnny Depp from day one. She knew exactly what she was doing. She used him to advance her career. Ask yourself why she would stay with a man who allegedly slapped her maybe 2-3 times before they even got married. Ask yourself why she would secretly record him during their marriage, their arguments, and why none of those recordings showed any abuse by him. But they showed abuse and manipulation by her. And of course, she capitalized on the Me Too movement that was happening when the divorce was going on and used it to her advantage.
Every single day I passed for 3, 4, sometimes 6 blocks, city blocks lined with people holding signs saying, "Burn the witch," "Death to Amber." After 3.5 weeks, I took the stand and saw just a courtroom packed full of Captain Jack Sparrow fans who were vocal, energized.
I don't doubt that there were people that were on the streets holding signs, but 6 blocks worth is quite a stretch. And she forgets these people saw Johnny Depp being dragged through the mud during the divorce, during the libel trial, and guess what? They saw how she was acting, her witness testimony, and they acted in kind. Just because she's a woman and just because she went through alleged abuse does not mean that she should totally be believed. Words are nothing without evidence to back them up. And Amber Heard seems to forget that men are victims of domestic abuse as well. And she showed herself to be an abuser, not a reactor, on her own recordings.
Can you put into words how that felt?
This was the most humiliating and horrible thing I've ever been through. I have never felt more removed from my own humanity. I felt less than human.
Note in the previous clip, she didn't say Johnny Depp fans. She said Jack Sparrow fans. That's very telling to me. No one should be made to feel less human or less than. And now that the shoe is on the other foot with regards to the backlash in social media, she doesn't like it. I hate to say this. Oh, who am I kidding? I don't hate to say it. Too bad, so sad.
Let's go back to the day of the verdict. Were you feeling confident?
That's a great question. I wish I could say yes to that. I want to say yes to you, but it wouldn't be true.
How can someone that was shown to be mostly lying think they're going to win a defamation case? I mean, Camille called her out on her alleged sexual abuse story by Johnny when it was actually her assistant's story. And as I recall, Amber used the same story during the libel case in the UK. And her assistant was interviewed saying it was her story, not Amber's. Yet, Amber still used it in this trial as if it were her own experience. There were photos and evidence where there were 2 of each photo, and in a couple of them you can see there's differences, stark differences. There are plenty of body language videos. The Behavioral Arts channel comes to mind, who analyzed Amber's body language on the stand, Johnny Depp's body language on the stand, and even Camille's body language and Elaine's body language, all of which is very telling. And I have to say this, they did it without putting their opinion about what they thought about the trial into the body language. They just analyzed everybody.
Even if you think that I'm lying, you still couldn't tell me, look me in the eye and tell me that you think on social media there's been a fair representation. There was another trial handled it dealt with the same substantive issues that had even more evidence in. In fact, my evidence was largely kept out. Really important pieces of evidence kept out.
It's important to note that that trial, the libel trial that Johnny Depp brought against the Sun, was held in the UK. The UK legal system is not the same as it is in the US. And from what I understand by those who live in the UK, the judge and Amber had a private 30-minute meeting, and during her videotaped testimony, the judge allowed her to eat chocolate.
Isn't it true, Ms. Heard, that in September of 2015, you punched Johnny Depp in the face with a closed fist?
I hit Johnny one time when he. Sorry, I'll wait. No. Done differently, handled differently by a judge instead of a jury.
Some evidence is admissible in a UK court that is not admissible in a US court. Do you think that maybe he just had better lawyers?
I will say his lawyers did certainly a better job of distracting the jury from the real issues.
For some people, they just were frankly disgusted by the whole thing and don't have much sympathy for either one of you. Can you understand that?
Absolutely. I would not blame the average person for looking at this and how it's been covered and not think that it is Hollywood brats at their worst. But what people don't understand is it's actually so much bigger than that. This is not only about our First Amendment right to speak.
But here's the thing about the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects free speech. It doesn't protect lies that amount to defamation. And that was the issue in the case.
Yes, exactly. You can't go into, the free speech does not protect you if you go into a crowded theater and you scream fire. We get the concept of free speech from the Greeks. My understanding of what that means is not just the freedom to speak. It's a freedom to speak truth to power.
So here we see Amber thinking this is about powerful men keeping women down, telling women they're not allowed to speak out. When for 6 years she's had a voice, she's spoken out. She became the artist ambassador for the ACLU for domestic abuse. And she even wrote an op-ed piece with the blessing of the ACLU, which brought on the defamation case against her by Johnny Depp. A man who it has been shown is the victim of domestic abuse by Amber Heard and who lost his voice for those 6 years.
But truth is the word.
Yes.
And that was the issue.
And that's all I spoke. And I spoke it to power, and I paid the price.
In the closing arguments, the Depp lawyer called your testimony the performance of a lifetime and said you were acting. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers.
Did I hear that right? She says that he convinced the world that he had scissors for fingers? Edward Scissorhands came out in 1990. So Amber was 4 years old when that movie came out. That sounds like something a 4-year-old would think.
I'm the performer.
Yes, Amber is a performer. She is an actor, as is Johnny. Her behavior on the stand, as quick as she flipped her emotions, showed she was acting. In fact, I have a piece of video that actually shows her with genuine emotions. Let's take a look.
You're about 6 feet away, maybe, from your car. Can you sense that your car is right in front of you,
Come
baby?
on!
This thing is absolutely gorgeous.
I know, and I can't open my eyes.
Nope. We're almost ready for you to see it. Oh, you got something to do first?
Yeah, I got one more thing.
Don't open your eyes yet. Don't open your eyes yet. Can you
Okay.
smile?
Smile.
Just smile.
All right.
This is my last selfie.
All right. Oh my goodness, this is exciting. Are you ready for this day of yours to get a whole lot better?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Oh my God.
Do you believe it's the same car?
No, I'm sorry.
have Chip take you around the car so we can point out some of the things that he and the A-team did.
Oh my God.
First of all, congratulations.
Oh my God. I can't believe it.
I had listened to weeks of testimony insinuating that, or saying quite directly that, I'm a terrible actress. So I'm a bit confused how I could be both.
The Depp team argued that you were the abuser, that you instigated physical violence. Did you?
I never had to instigate it. I responded to it. When you're living in violence and it becomes normal, as I testified to, you have to adapt.
You say you were responding, but there is evidence. There are tapes in which you acknowledge hitting. There are tapes in which you say, I started the fight.
I know much has been made of these audio tapes. They were first leaked online after being edited. What you would hear in those clips are not evidence of what was happening. It was evidence of a negotiation of how to talk about that with your abuser.
But I am looking at a transcript that says, he says, you start physical fights, and you say, I did start a physical fight. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. I mean, this is in black and white. I understand context. But you're testifying and you're just telling me today, I never started a physical fight, and here you are on tape saying you did.
As I testified on the stand about this, is that when your life is at risk, not only will you take the blame for things that you shouldn't take the blame for, but when you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, you don't have the resources that, say, you or I do with the luxury of saying, hey, this is black and white, because it's anything but when you're living in it.
Notice the deflection. She refuses to answer the question. Instead, she keeps making herself the victim, even though she says, I'm not a victim, and she keeps blaming Johnny for everything. She has taken no responsibility for her actions. On the contrary, Johnny has taken responsibility for his own actions and owned up to them in front of millions of people who watched the trial.
But then there are other times, there's another tape where you're taunting him and saying, oh, tell the world, Johnny Depp, I, a man, am a victim of domestic violence.
20-second clips, or the transcripts of them, are not representative of even the 2 hours or the 3 hours that those clips are excerpt from.
Could your side have just put the whole 3 hours in then?
I'm not a lawyer. As I testified to, I was talking in those recordings as a person in extreme amount of emotional, psychological, and physical distress.
He
And
says
it
he
doesn't-
never hit you.
He can't-
Never. Is
Yeah.
that a lie?
Yes, it is.
What about the witnesses who said they have seen you instigate physical violence?
I've seen firsthand how people will file rank and support the person they depend on.
You mean like Eve Barlow and the other people on social media that have your back and still vilify Johnny Depp? Yeah, it goes both ways.
Did they all come in and lie in court?
I am not here to call any of his witnesses any names. I'm here to just kind of talk about it from what it felt like for me as a person who sat there.
When I asked his lawyers, why do you think you won? And the answer I got was, because she never took responsibility for anything she did in the marriage.
I did do and say horrible, regrettable things throughout my relationship. I behaved in horrible, almost unrecognizable to myself ways. I have so much regret. I freely and openly and voluntarily talked about what I did. I talked about the horrible language. I talked about being pushed to the extent where I didn't even know the difference between, right and wrong.
You still know right from wrong. You just didn't care. You put everything square on Johnny's shoulders. He pushed you to that point. He did this. He did that. That sounds like something an abuser would say.
I will always continue to feel like I was a part of this, like I was the other half of this relationship, because I was. And it was ugly and could be very beautiful. It was very, very toxic. We were awful to each other. You know, I made a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes. But I've always told the truth.
Marriages can be ugly. Marriages can be beautiful. But it takes two to tango. No marriage is perfect by any means. Couples fight. That's normal. My husband and I fight, and we yell. But we stop. We go away from each other. We regroup, and then we come back and we talk things out. The recordings that Amber presented, she would never give Johnny the space to go and regroup. She would continually harangue him to get him to talk, and that's not how he is. Marriages are work, plain and simple, and those that can't handle the work should not be married. And for the record, I have been married to my husband for 24 years. I do not foresee Amber even having a marriage that lasts very long if she does get married, because this will crop up again. She's proven it with her wife, her ex-wife, and with Johnny. I know this was kind of a serious what the hell Karen, but I wanted to put this out because it's very relevant and timely, and Amber does remind me, and I'm sure other people, of a Karen.